Welcome to your Mercury and Pisces transit talk. This is the Peace Dealer. And yeah, I hope you're ready for World War III. I'm sorry, I hope you're ready for another informative talk about the planets. Anyway, yes, I'm going to talk about Mercury and Pisces. Mercury that will be transiting Pisces. Uh, I think no, I was gonna say relative to this transit, this video should be quick, but because we're gonna have a retrograde in this sign, then of course Mercury's gonna be in Pisces for a bit. Right now it's 22 degrees. I have the chart up here of February 7th, 2026. And yeah, we'll be covering its transit through Pisces as it retrogrades, it going direct, and then moving forward. All right. Uh, you and I both know, at least to a degree, the nature of Mercury retrogrades. I know there's at one level uh, how we'll look at technological glitches and all things going wrong and point to Mercury about it. But then there's also the chaos. There's also the miscommunication. Of course, just like the backwards motion of Mercury in the sky is an illusion, in that Mercury isn't necessarily really going backwards. We can also say that the Mercury retrograde mishaps we noticed during that could also be a form of an illusion that we just notice more during those periods. But all those theories are going to be thrown out the window. This diabolical Mercury retrograde will remind you what Mercury retrograde really is and how sinister it could truly be. Albeit, as much as we like to blame the planet, I like to say transits like this through Mercury, Mercury has a way of getting your attention. So, of course, in a metaphysical zodiac sign such as this, as it travels through the last zodiac sign, I think will really do a good job of rounding up and concluding this process of reasoning, of, in this sense, as the title suggests, reevaluating metaphysical beliefs. All right. Mercury, of course, is ruled or rules Gemini and Virgo, the different aspects of our brain's ability to process. Gemini representing the individual thought forms, words, and then Virgo representing numbers. In this case, the socially critical perspectives that analyze our ideas from Gemini. I love that you said need to check up on my magic because that's going to be, I was going to call it reevaluating magic beliefs, but beliefs in a sense are magic. Um, that's going to be the major theme of this Mercury and Pisces. It's going to completely reshape the way you believe in magic. Gemini shifts the way you think about magic. Virgo shifts the way you analyze magic. Sagittarius teaches you how to see magic. And then Pisces shows you how to believe in magic. Okay. So given that we are coming out of very important long-term cycles like Saturn that's leaving Pisces or has left Pisces, bless me, and Neptune, achoo, Bless you. Thank you. You're welcome. Yeah, and Pisces, Neptune that has left Pisces. This whole purpose of Mercury is to rewire your brain's ability to process magic in entering a new world in which the concept of magic is going to be innovated. um, and the long withstanding way with which you have seen magic represented in media, the way it's been talked about, the way it's seen as like a quick fix solution, its association with fantasy and science fiction, is not only going to shift forever, but by the time we're back in Virgo, when Mercury and the Sun is in Virgo, this is going to really break through in the ways with which you practically apply this. All right. So, very exciting stuff. Like I mentioned, through Pisces, this is going to shift the way you not only formulate beliefs, but the way in which you process the metaphysical. Okay. And a large reason for this, I'm going to say, has much to do with 2012 through now's transit of Neptune. Because Neptune has finished its transit through Pisces, we could say that its work is done, especially with Saturn. The purpose of which, with which to stretch your imagination and to transcend what you even believe is possible, which I think was a very huge theme of Neptune and Pisces since 2012, putting you in situations that almost force you to think outside the box or look at situations in a different way. Albeit, I think what happened is many people instead um, used it to just feed their confirmation bias, their implicit bias, kind of like in the way that people would use tarot cards and astrology to say what they want to believe, right? You have people who use this in a critical way that can forego their own bias. You have people who feed their bias in a way that skeptics will use this to make it out to be that that's what it's all about. But you can't really fake the funk. So a whole lot of conclusions based on false narratives and outright made up beliefs that came out of the arses from many people will really kind of be exposed for what they are. This is also going to be very amazing for those of you who I feel like you haven't necessarily been vindicated, or you don't necessarily feel justice uh, due to people or influences who have gotten away with just making up all sorts of BS, making astronomical reaches, committing all sorts of atrocious fallacies. A transit like this in this Pisces season is going to remind you that nothing real can be threatened. I think some of you guys aren't, well, all of you guys watching, but I feel like you guys aren't stupid idiots. So you already knew off rip that you didn't want to waste your time going back and forward with stupid idiots, and you just let them snitch on themselves. And so a transit like this is going to fulfill a lot of what you already, in a sense, anticipated. And it will feel good to be exonerated indirectly, right? Without you really having to go out of your way to explain yourself or prove anything. And once again, it is this indirect, unspoken sense of how you will be able to reevaluate the way you process magic and the metaphysical. So, um, how I would say, in the way where, like, perhaps certain things you have believed have been purposefully twisted to mean something else, right? Um, in a sense, where here's a classic example, right? Um, It's like if you paid for a subscription that supports somebody that other people don't like, and now you're labeled to support genocide, right? Or if you didn't condemn somebody or some group, now you're labeled as a terrorist sympathizer. You hear this stupidity on all sides of whatever spectrum, and it's far from just political. You've seen people wrap reasoning and rhetoric around stupidity, but because it was said with passion and conviction, you have other idiots who just eat it up and drink the Kool-Aid. So you're going to see all sorts of these things dissolve. You're going to see it really fall off the wayside in a way that reminds you that as much as things are being set up as us versus them or this side and that side, there is a collective responsibility that, as much as human beings want to point the fingers at each other, at wealthy billionaires, at whoever's the villain of this week, everyone has a collective responsibility and participation, especially with the system that makes them, as much as they don't want to admit it, a bit complicit. And that's something that you don't have to really explain. You're going to experience. All right. And I'm not trying to say everyone's at fault, but you're going to see. All right. Especially as we cross over Neptune and Saturn, the actions that people are going to be taking will kind of reveal how hypocritical or on point they have been all along. And that's where, once again, I feel like it's going to be very satisfying for you to realistically kind of see all this play out for you without having to do anything. Like, you ever feel you want to be vindicated, and it's like without you having to do anything, indirectly something else happens to deliver that. And you in your head might have thought, oh, I have to do a, how am I going to do A, B, C, and D? And you're going to be reminded nothing real could be threatened. So all you had to do was maintain integrity and authenticity, and these things would naturally deal themselves out. All right. Something that most people don't believe. It's very easy to say, oh, bad people keep winning and so much bad things happen to good people. If that's what you want to believe and conclude, you can bring all the statistics, you can bring all the facts. You're concluding on that. If that's what you want to believe, that's what you're going to see more of. Okay. And yes, Carlito, it is the best thing ever. It's a feeling that's unprecedented. And when you start to see this, right, you're going to start to see that anybody can get this. It's not necessarily like, oh, I'm going to pay attention when it happens to the people I don't like, but not to the people. You're gonna see. You're gonna enjoy how this kind of plays through. Miss Nikki said, like with LeBron James, I'm not entirely sure what's happening with him, but I feel like he's a good example because, especially when you're a public figure and you don't necessarily parrot the ideas that certain people feel like you're supposed to say, you literally can't win. It's literally damned if you do, damned if you don't. If you speak on behalf for someone or something, how dare you do that? If you don't say anything, how dare you use your platform? So let's take Israel, Gaza, right? How dare you use your platform to speak against Israel or Gaza? If he doesn't speak, or like in this case, if he says they're good, how dare you use your platform to speak for Gaza, right? If you're a celebrity, if you're rich, if you're not rich, if you have influence, how dare you try and tell us what to do when you have money? How dare you bring your social ideas when you have money? If they don't say anything, how dare you not speak up when you have money? And it happens to everybody. Like, even those, like, I don't want to say this in defense of wealthy people. This happens to non-wealthy too, but I know that that's a simplification that can diminish more nuance in these arguments, but I'm making it just simplistic in this sense because it pretty much follows the same vein. And this is where, if you get too caught up in these useless ass politics, And I don't mean politics as far as like politics. I mean politics in any industry. If you're getting caught up and distracted by this, it's going to really, trip you up. You know what I mean? Things don't have to happen instantly. So all the people who have been, going out there, acting authentically, making noise, protesting, standing for what's quote unquote right. I'm not going to say they're wrong, and I'm not going to say they're right, right? Especially if it's authentic, do what you have to do. I'm going to say over time, especially by the end of the decade, especially by the end of this year, really take stock of what has really changed. You have people who are out for blood. They want to see the person that they hate the most come into some sense of justice. You have people who are very vocal, right? But look at the results. I'm not, who knows? And if there was ever a time that there would ever be a shift in the change of the status quo, it would be now that, of course, we have a new cycle of energy. So I'm not saying it's impossible. Well, I'm going to say take stock, right? Everyone who is all up in arms about, oh, children are being eaten, children are being killed. First of all, when we were talking about Pizzagate before, y'all did not have that same energy. You called us conspiracy theorists. And now to hear you parrot everything we're saying 5 and 10 years later, like you're suddenly the warriors who want to solve this. I'm not saying you're not going to make a difference, but really take stock of this right now, especially by the time 6 months later, when we're in Virgo season, what has really changed? You pointed the finger at people who you don't like. What has changed in the economy? What has changed as far as real issues people are going through? Because we all fucking know that it's wrong to do bad things to kids. So, I mean, standing behind these issues in order to feel like, oh, I said right, it's cool and all, but I want you to be the judge of whether were these real issues used to exploit the common person to feel like to use their energy to be a part of something, or were there actual change? Right now, you see people making an attempt to hold leaders accountable, and I think that's a beautiful thing. I'm not trying to say that that's a distraction and people shouldn't do this. And I'm just using this as an example, but like take stock of what actually shifts, because don't be surprised if we've seen this before. And a lot of this works through a successive series of this. So I'm not saying that it doesn't build up, but just take stock. All right. Some of you, I think you already know what I'm trying to say here. And don't fall for the okie doke. Okay. I'm not saying don't make a difference. I'm not saying don't go out there and make your voice heard. Absolutely not. I'm just saying take stock of what comes of this. Take stock of all this noise you're hearing, of all these people who are pointing the finger and saying other people aren't doing enough, and ask yourself what really came of this? What really changed? Who is still rich after this? Who is still in control after this? Who still owns territory after this? Who is still making money off of other people after this? I'm in the belief as we step into this new cycle, there is potential for great change. There it is possible there's going to be reached that 100th monkey effect, right? They're going to reach a critical mass. There's potential for great change. Whether that actually happens, we shall see. All right. Looks like Iran is in America are getting ready for something spectacular, but who knows? Okay. Some people try to tie it to 68 numerology. If you know, you know. Add up all those dates together. But the reason why I'm talking about this now is in a transit like Mercury in Pisces in this Pisces season, what everyone believes now going into this transit and what everyone believes coming out of this transit will literally be night and day. Certain core beliefs might still be maintained, but the way people believe in it is going to shift. Meaning, some people may still maintain their beliefs. They may go into this transit thinking something is a certain way, and then they leave the transit continuing to think it's a certain way. Maybe continuing their hatred for someone or their support for someone. But the way in which they look about it is about to be completely flipped, especially as we go into Aries season and we activate the cycle. The purpose of this Pisces season, especially with Mercury, is to shift the angle and the trajectory of your beliefs so that when we move cardinally in Aries, the direction that you move into is going to reflect this shift and completion of said beliefs. All right. So, something to keep in mind. And this is where, once again, you can allow other people to try and guilt trip you into parroting their opinions and to making you out to be some kind of villain because you're not doing what they say, or you can maintain a whole lot of what you are already believing. And I mean this on every corner of the spectrum. I think when I say that, you might be thinking that I'm just talking about one group. It's happening everywhere. It's happening in spaces we're not even inhabiting. This is a collective event issue. All right. So something to keep in mind. Don't be pushed to jump on the front lines of a issue that's really just going to end up being a sacrifice and a tribute. But that's not me telling you how to look at a situation. That's not me telling you what to think. Everything that I'm telling you with this transit talk, I want you to be the judge. I want you to take my information. You are more than welcome to disagree with me. I'm giving you a Geminian perspective. You can edit what I say. You can add to what I say. You can take from what I say. Shoot, some of you can even spin doctor what I say, cut certain clips, and make me out to say something else. If you're going to do it anyway, it is what it is. But I'm here to give you my perspective. And relative to us closing out this cycle, we see that Mercury is the first planet to enter here, cross through the nodes, and as it retrogrades, it's going to cross through all the other planets that are entering Pisces. So we have a lot to talk about, and this is going to be very rewarding. The first thing I want to mention is going to be very rewarding because this is going to really constitute a whole lot of fulfilling a lot of inquiry and a lot of synchronicities that you have been seeing, but perhaps maybe you've always wanted the full-on completion of how to make sense of why you're seeing what you're seeing, why you're perceiving what you're seeing. So I think that's going to be one of the most rewarding parts of this. As far as aspects are concerned, as we reach the later degrees of Pisces, we will have the sextile, the closing 300-degree sextile to Uranus. That's one of the major aspects we're going to come into. Like I mentioned before, we're going to have the closing trine with Jupiter in Cancer. I mentioned this yesterday with the new moon ceremony. That's going to be another important aspect that's actually happening right now. And then eventually with direct, when Mercury goes direct. And to speak on those, okay, and then of course, we will also have the most important pressing aspect, the semi-sextile, the 330 to 360 degree angle of Mercury behind Mars and Saturn. What does that mean? That means last year, Mercury conjuncted Mars and Neptune, or Saturn and Neptune. And now that all these planets are behind that, it is the very last phase before we plant new seeds. So we are at the conclusion arc, final breakthrough with Jupiter of evolution, rewards and completion with Uranus, and then release with Saturn, Neptune. And in cycles like these are where you come into the final piece of the puzzle. This is where you start to really come into the harvest and the results of what you've been picking up, which I think with a very magical vibration of Pisces. Aquarius is a frequency, Pisces is vibration, knowledge, imagination. Okay. That's going to, I think, be very rewarding. If we look at the relationship with Uranus and Taurus, Venus at 26 degrees on the 7th of February, Mercury were the first two planets to square Uranus. So everything from, of course, 27 degrees Aquarius to about 28, 29 degrees Pisces is actually going to be that Capricorn signature. And as we are transiting through Pisces, your brain, Venus, Mars subsequently, and now the sun, your conscious awareness, is going to be completing the rewards. It's going to be completing your perspective and experience of what you're accomplishing. Okay. And the reason why that's very significant is because given that we crossed that finish line at the end of Aquarius, it marked the quality. And now the majority of this space through Pisces that we're going to transit through is going to have you actively finally experience what this dream is like, how your beliefs are shaped, because you're like, oh, this is what I believe I'm coming into the completion of. And then at the end of Pisces, you're going to experience what those rewards are as you take action in Aries to step into those rewards, which is not only well deserved, but I think will be experienced it for some of you in the case of miraculous turnarounds that I think, really reflect a lot of what you have sowed when we originally planted these seeds. Okay. So the first part of the three phases that I'm going to say about oh my god, the first phase that I'm going to the three phases of this transit we're going to call this is pre-magic, magic, and post-magic. We're going to have the pre-magic phase where Mercury is going to enter with Venus before we ended Aquarius season, which is going to start to stimulate your imagination and really prepare you for what's possible. Then we're going to have the magic phase, which we are just initiating right now with Pisces, the sun in Pisces. I was going to do the peace report. I pushed it to next week, which is going to be the process of us actively experiencing this magic of change. Okay. This change of our beliefs. Then we're going to have the post magic phase while Mercury completes its retrograde and we're already taking action, applying this change of our beliefs. The post magic phase is going to revisit this reevaluation of our beliefs and have us, of course, now apply not only what we've changed of our beliefs, but now develop new beliefs now that we're taking action moving forward based on the actions you're also taking and the new seeds that you're planting moving forward. So I think a good analogy of this is this transit is going to really break through metaphysical experiences that lost certain techniques, unconscious competence that enables you to literally change your entire life, if not existence, relative to skills and abilities that you have been actively learning from the most mundane level to the most supernatural level. I like using extreme examples. So let's say a transit like this is where you could levitate for the first time. We want to bring an example of something that right now you would think is impossible for you to do and achieve. So that pre-magic phase is where you start to entertain the idea of perhaps you being able to like levitate, and you start to really open your mind up to, wow, actually levitation might be possible. Then we have the magic phase where you actually levitate and your mind's blown. You're reevaluating the way you think because you never thought you'd actually teleport or levitate. And now we have the post magic phase where, well, now you're actively levitating. And now you're shifting your beliefs as someone who didn't think you could levitate to, oh wow, no, I levitated yesterday, today, and by Virgo season, you're mastering that skill 6 months later and performing it to levitate. Extreme example, we can also say you're kicking a horrible habit. You didn't think you can kick an addiction. Now you're in the process of it, and now it's life after kicking an addiction or a bad habit, right? I want to use something that you think is and believe is completely impossible, especially with Venus in Pisces of its exaltation. I'm not being cheeky or sarcastic here, but like falling in love with your crush. Or, you know, actually attracting a non-toxic relationship. Shout out to those of you who are happily in relationships, right? Uh expect the unexpected and open up to the impossible, because a large facet of what shifts your beliefs will be really seeing certain impossible situations come to fruition. Another example is you might have people who go into this transit wanting to overthrow the government, come out like, oh, wow, maybe we can work with the government. You're going to have people who come into this transit wanting to work with the government, in the government, like, wow, I want to overthrow the government. And the other two scenarios too. They can go in wanting to overthrow it, come out still wanting to overthrow it, and vice versa. Okay. And I'm just saying that because it's extreme, right? Given the revolutionary quality of Pluto and Aquarius, and now all these planets moving forward to now apply this awakening of that through the 30-degree signature of Pluto and Aquarius, it's going to apply that extreme awakening towards how that develops your imagination. So the first stage of this, of course, is going to be Mercury's humping, dry humping, wet humping over, of course, um, the North Node in Pisces. As you can see, this is coming up off the end of Aquarius season. This was last week. Um, by the time Mercury conjuncts the North Node, Venus enters Pisces. We're going to talk about Mars tomorrow, and then we will tackle, or maybe I might push Mars to another week, but we will tackle, of course. Yeah, I'll probably push Mars to another week. We will tackle Venus and Mercury here, and then of course, uh, yeah, that's the first decan. I clearly was going to say something. I think I was going to say like 3 different things. I wanted to say this instead. What's the difference between dry humping and wet humping? Oh, dumb question. Okay, so with that being said, right, the transits to the North Node in Pisces are unlocking what you are meant to believe. And hence the squares to Sagittarius and Gemini, the oppositions to Virgo, making sure your thoughts, habits, and visions are aligned with that. Because we've done that last year with the eclipse 2025, this is that final revisiting to take how you've shifted your beliefs or augmented, maintained your beliefs and the integrity thereof. And you're going to replant seeds here. This also, of course, highlights revelation in the way your brain will be trained through forces beyond your control around what you even perceive and why you're perceiving it. So the first decan of Mercury, aka the pre-magic phase, is what, of course, brings to fruition not only the setup for this new moon in Aquarius, but the preparation for you to rock out with your magic balls out or your magic sea out. All right. Now I'm fast forwarding to present, the 18th, where now we are in the magic phase, as you can see, and Mercury is in the second decan with the moon. So we are at the beginning of the magic phase with the sun actually being um, of consciousness, having you now, of course, be aware of what your brain has been stimulating in your imagination. Once again, Mercury likes to be in a zodiac sign like Gemini and Virgo that represent both words and numbers, right? Your thoughts and your habits, experimentation and analysis. I can really give you a specific amount of number of coins on the table. I can actually use words to describe a scenario, right? When you now put Mercury in a sign like a universal sign like Sagittarius or Pisces, it's like using a toothbrush to clean an entire museum when you could just use a vacuum cleaner or something bigger, right? So now you're asking Mercury to process bigger picture themes that are open ended and don't have one answer, right? Mercury loves Virgo because unless you're talking to Pisces, Terrence Howard, right? One times one equals one, right? Now, when you abstractify it, and now we're of course bringing in all sorts of different theorems, right? Mercury doesn't like to have to process through, oh well, you know, what do you think about world hunger, right? It's going to want to process things with a definite answer. 5 + 5 = 10, right? There are 6 blinds on that wall right there. Your shoes look trash, like that fit you didn't put on. Like very objective, easy stuff, complex stuff to analyze, right? But when you put it in a sign like Pisces that does not have one clear defined answer, when you give it a bigger picture perspective where when you give it this perspective where like personally you can look at one situation an infinite amount of ways and each perspective adds to it, it's not the biggest fan of that. It deals better with smaller intervals, right? But the plus to this is it enables you to now read in between the lines. Pisces wants to think about the unknown. Even infinity, if you take a concept like infinity, it's something that's still a theory, right? Like we can theorize about infinity, but it's not anything we've ever been able to quantify, right? So we can definitely stimulate what's possible. Pisces is going to help you really examine and explore the unknown and the metaphysical, the unseen. This is expressly opposite Mercury in its exaltation, which makes Mercury in its Pisces the fall position. So, with that being said, clear, quick, concise, right? When you put Mercury in a sign like Pisces, this is going to teach you to process what's not there. A sign like Virgo is going to break everything down into its most critical level. It's going to break everything down into its individual nut and bolt piece. Everything, right? Pisces is going to look at all those pieces and see how they all connect holistically. Leo King always talks about the 29th degree being the most difficult. Do you agree? I actually have my Mercury at 29 degrees Taurus, and my two sisters as well. My youngest sister has a 29-degree Mercury in Gemini. She graduated at the top of her class with honors 4.0. My other sister has a Mercury 29 degrees Scorpio, if not Sag. I have 29 degrees Mercury Taurus. So that's called the anaretic degree. Is it the most difficult degree? It can be. I don't think he's wrong to say that, given that the final degree of any zodiac sign is going to be the quality of that sign turned, the volume knob turned at the highest. So it's going to require the highest proficiency. In my experience, with a 29-degree Mercury, mercurial communication, thinking has always come easy to me. Unlike my Mars at 8 degrees or my Venus at 14 degrees, love, being athletic, that has not come easy to me. It's not like I can just jump a 7 foot vert, or, I can, like, deal with emotions or matters of love as significant. So I don't think he's wrong to say it's difficult, right? But I think it depends on how you perceive it, because 29, from my experience, people with 29-degree placements do what they do effortlessly and flawless. Like they have the highest mastery of this. 29 degrees of Pisces being the most difficult. I don't think he's wrong to say that if you think that this is the 359th degree of the zodiac. So it's having to take into account everything before it. But I still think some of that could be speculative. And it would really depend on who's actually, I think it's, if we're talking about it per individual, it depends on the individual. If we're talking about it collectively, you could say that. I don't think he's wrong to say that, though. There is a case to say it's the most difficult as far as in an event space, or even proficiency in dealing with certain people like that. But yeah, whenever you have any planet from 20 to 29 degrees, you've mastered that to its mastery. I think I think what I would say is 29-degree placements enable you to handle the highest difficulty. There are certain levels of difficulty that people at lower degrees wouldn't be able to handle that a 29-degreer can handle. So yeah. But that being said, it is definitely something to keep in mind, because as we're going to close this Piscean cycle out, this is definitely going to the planet. It's definitely going to close out a lot of what was activated. And this is where, once again, at this late stage of the game, late stage capitalism, at this late stage of the game, right? Late stage communism, late stage capitalism, at this late stage of the game, it is your decision if you want to be rage baited by people who are miserable and in poor control of their emotions as they're deeply in their feelings, to be drugged down to their level, when you could just look down on them, point, and laugh. Ha 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 ha, you mad, you mad. And then you draw a cape over them and you be like, now you're super mad. Now, you don't have to be disgracefully petty like me, or degenerate like me, but it is an option. And I do recommend it through a Pisces season like this, because you're going to find that a lot of people who are crusading are doing it for clicks, are really just doing it to feel important, and are doing it to feel like they're part of a movement, especially when you see movements back in the 60s, back in time. Everyone wants to be in the history books, right? Everyone wants to feel like they matter and like they're important. And I feel like that really sucks for those who are really out there, you know, doing the good work to make a good change, seeing their movements be co-opted by people who are just using them for clout. So it'd be very interesting to say and see who really is exposed. Boy, there'll be a lot of people exposed to this. Not more than already, but you'll see. There's a lot of emotion that is not really backed by solid logic, that a transit like this is going to have people snitching on themselves. Shoot, I could be doing that to myself right now. But you're definitely going to see a great before and after through this. And as we have this Saturn Neptune conjunction right now, we are officially activating a 30-year cycle that by the time we come back around, I think Neptune will either be leaving Taurus in Gemini. We shall see. All right. Actually, let me show you. 27 years from now, Neptune is going to be in Gemini, baby. So we're going to have a conjunction with Saturn and Neptune in Gemini. So with that being said, as we transit through this magic portion, right? Bro, you're not allowed to say this. Like it's highly hypocritical. Like people's hatred for Trump has people all of a sudden giving a fuck about kids. Because these are the same people who, when we were talking about Pizzagate, they were like, no, this is a conspiracy theory. No, no. And now the top op is in office. You don't like this dude. Now all of a sudden you care about victims of child molestation, and it's fascinating to see real time. Obviously, bad things happen to kids is something everyone doesn't like. Like it doesn't matter who's in office. Obviously, it's something, right? But to see this happening in real time is fascinating. And I'm not even saying that in defense of the president. It's just, I know Gemini derangement syndrome. The reason why it's easy for me to see is this did not start with President Trump. We've seen this with Kanye. We've seen this with Kendrick Lamar during the rap battle. Like it's amazing the lengths people will spin and weave narratives to go through in order to feel like, you know what I'm saying? So that's why I started the thing off by saying, take stock of all the people who you're seeing championing and pioneering this and see what comes of it. See what actually comes of it, and how much and how authentic and how genuine this really is. Especially, and I'm not going to say the whole thing about, I'm not talking about the files either, because I know that's the hot button issue. People could be like, oh, well, the Democrats could have unleashed the files. Apparently the files were sealed. So apparently they couldn't, right? Don't really care. That being said, be mindful of who is actually authentic of an issue versus who is using an issue to veil their extreme hatred for a certain group of people or a person. And I'm not saying that it isn't warranted or deserved. I'm not trying to argue. I'm just saying we see the play that's happening. One thing you have to remember, especially when we talk about I feel like it's an affront to these issues, because you're going to use these issues for your political aims when, you know what I mean, like there's real people suffering through this, and you'll clearly ignore that to the extent with which it helps you. So it is what it is. But that being said, please remember, every president is hated, right? Before President Trump was being hated like so, it was Barack Obama. Before Barack Obama, it was George Bush. After Trump, it was President Biden. He remember, with him, it was the laptop. Now with Trump, it's the list. With Obama, it was the birth certificate. Do you get what I'm saying? Like each side is going to have their propaganda piece that they're going to push forward. And I'm not saying that to diminish what's happening. Do you think elites are really dabbling in an occult cannibalism? The thing with this, Lucky Divine, is that the extent through which elites and all sorts of influences are doing evil shit involving kids go so deep that it feels like Diddy. It literally feels like Diddy. Remember when like Diddy went to jail and people just knew that he was like some kind of sacrifice, right? Like, oh, let's focus on Diddy so we don't focus on other things. This is a higher political version of this. I'm gonna be completely honest. Let's put the focus on Mossad and Epstein, and let's hold accountable these officials. I'm not trying to diminish this, but it's like, what's really going to change after? Who's still going to be in power after, right? The same way people were saying, oh, I went to Diddy's parties, but I didn't see those parties, are the same way people are saying, oh, well, I went to the island, but I went with my kids. I didn't go to that island, right? So I think it's the right approach. And I'm not saying people are going to stop here. I think this represents this toppling so that it could be explored more, but it is far deeper. It is far deeper than some client list that you are desperately hoping, and I say you plural, that you're desperately hoping the FBI, who's totally not compromised, to prosecute. You feel me? Like it is so beyond it that if you knew, you would not be supporting the same infrastructure, economy, and raising the GDP of the country that you're simultaneously wanting to give you justice. And that's where I say at a certain level, all of us are complicit in contributing and participating in the same thing we want to see justice from. And it's cool. It's cool. We don't have to be perfect. It's just be very mindful. I'm not saying all that to say that means you shouldn't make your voice be heard and you shouldn't inquire about it. I'm saying don't fall for the okie doke because it's your energy, it's your focus, and it's your attention. They are going to need to do this. All I'm saying. We literally saw this happen in 2020. And then an administration used your energy, changed nothing, and now we're back. No offense. No offense. Okay. I'm not saying that's going to happen again. I'm just going to say, please don't forget what just happened a few years ago when we were talking about this and y'all were not hearing it. I don't mean you guys. Motherfuckers were not hearing it. Yes, it's just so, it's like a slap in the face. But like, who are you used to it at this point? So with that, thank you, bro. Like, really think about this. Really think about this. You're telling me that you're mad that the FBI is telling you that, oh, there's nothing we can prosecute on this list. It's almost like there's a government conspiracy, except all the people telling you that there's a government conspiracy, you called conspiracy theorists. So which is it? Anyway, it is what it is. And these inconsistencies matter. These inconsistencies matter because while you're getting too caught up, oh, you know what I'm saying? Oh, you're a coon. Oh, you're a sellout. Oh, you're whatever. That's just mudflinging. What real change happens from this? All you did was get mad and point the finger. Don't fall for the okie doke. Take action. Do what you feel is necessary. Spend more time doing that than all this noise, basically. Okay. So the thing is, nothing real could be threatened. We already won. Stay ready so you don't have to get ready. Okay. And with that being said, now that we're in the magic portion, this is the now with the sun in Pisces, the next 30 days, which I'll talk about during the peace report, that we are going to see all the change. The first change through Mercury, the second change through Virgo, the third change through Sagittarius, June, September, November, and now the final change. Okay. For those of you who feel powerless, for those of you who feel like you want to be more of a difference, for those of you who feel like, oh, what can I do to change the world around me? What can I do in order to be more of an impact in the society around me? You fell for the okie doke because the audacity. What do you think you've been doing your whole life? In order for you to believe something like that, you're believing the bullshit you're being fed on a screen or in the media. What do you mean that the work you've been developing on yourself is not a part of being the change you want to see in the world? What do you think God has been having you focus on? The most seemingly irrelevant things you might be doing could turn out to be increasingly relevant when you least expect it. So that's why I'm saying, if you're falling for the okie doke, you're going to be believing all sorts of bullshit that was never true. And then you're going to take the blessings you were blessed with and look at it like it's worthless. because you're listening to the opinions of others who don't even know you. You only exist as a demographic. You only exist as what they feel you should fit in the box. And if you're not parroting their opinion, you're worthless to them. Why are you listening to them? And that's where it takes more courage to stand on that and not be forced to pick some opinion to believe. And I'm saying this as much to people who have picked a side. Don't let people make you change your opinion if you are firmly rooted on whether you're pro the issue or against the issue. So it's just something to keep in mind. Once again, the micro is the only macro. When we talk about Virgo, we're talking about micro. When we talk about Pisces, we're talking about macro, completely beyond everything. Don't fall for the okie dokie this Pisces season. Pisces is a master troll, and Pisces is one of those zodiac signs that are allowed to deceive you. Pisces is allowed to troll you. Pisces is allowed to test how much. Pisces is the definition of I'm going to scam you and I'm going to appeal to your selfish desires. And because you gave in to those desires without thinking, you got scammed. That's the type of energy Pisces is. Pisces is not going to get in trouble. You're going to get slapped on the wrist. Whereas you would not have gotten in that trouble if you knew better. You know what I'm saying? So keep that in mind, because that's like a joker card. They are allowed to play that position. It is necessary. It's in a sense where you can say in certain Kabbalic myths that Samael, the devil, is tasked by God to tempt humanity. But that being said, okay. Yep. That being said, like, that's a great example. Pisces could steal all your drugs. And because they stole your drugs, it led to you kicking your drug addiction. So even though what they did was very, very screwed up, it changed your life for the better. And that's why I hate Pisces. That's why I'm so jealous of Pisces. Like, Pisces can stay Delulu and still be right. I don't understand. It's so unfair. But I get it. I respect it. I respect Aquarius. I respect Pisces. So with that being said, this magic portion we have now entered in that has set up and programmed the knowledge that we have completed is going to be one of the most dope rides of your life. Because not only are we going through a washing machine portal at the level that's going to shake the entire collective, this is going to prepare for you to go through the new world. And as it really speaks of these metaphysical beliefs, it's going to bring into a point everything you believe. And it's going to really shape how it is you see yourself. So that, shout out to Xanos, so that as you step into Aries, you apply this shift of beliefs and you step into this awareness of who you've always been. Okay. And this is really, that's the cool thing about this. Like, being behind Saturn and Aries, it is quite literally taking into account everything you have ever experienced since 1994, 1995, 1996. Okay. Some of you weren't even born. But some of you were born after 1996. So buckle up. This is your first rodeo. Trust me. Buckle up. I was born 1990, so I was 6 years old. It's my first rodeo too during this period. But like, then we have Neptune, right? Neptune hasn't been in this position since America had its first civil war. So now we're also bringing in about like 2 centuries and change of cultural revolutions, influences, shift in beliefs that have led in a domino effect to where you are now. And a lot of this is being washed, cleared away, right? Repurposed, reshaped in new form. And now that the sun is in Pisces, this is going to really have you venture into the unknown in a way that has you see magic or perceive magic in a way you haven't. When I say see, I'm not talking about with your physical eyes. I'm talking about with your mind's eye, metaphysically. And once again, that's why it's tough for Mercury to be in a sign like this, because Mercury is empirical in a sense. It's the magician, actually. But Mercury likes to crunch numbers. It's going to count what's physically there. It's going to really take concepts that are real and exist. And now you are going to reevaluate the way you perceive the meaning of these experiences. What the blessing of this transit is going to be is you're going to look at the exact same experiences you've been looking at, but you're going to see them with new eyes. It's going to be like the scales are falling from your eyes, and you're going to see the true meaning of why certain things have existed. Mercury in Pisces helps you communicate with a vibe as a collective experience. So there's me, there's you talking to me as an individual, and then there's you talking to me as a representative of an entire collective, right? So like Mercury and Gemini is us having a conversation, and it's like you're listening, and with Virgo you're analyzing the words I use. And then there's Mercury and Pisces that can help you process how what I'm saying ties in to the commercial that you just watched before I came on, and how everything I say here is going to lead into the sex you have later tonight, and how all of that is correlated. It is a non-linear, unconventional method of approaching even analysis that forgoes inductive and deductive analysis. You're almost taking into account facets that are not physically there that still correlate and commingle holistically. And that's why it's going to feel delusional as fuck. Now, if you are already team Delulu, you're not going to slip into psychosis, and you're going to have a blast. If you're not team Delulu, get your prescription drug. You might need it. Okay. That being said, all right. If we break down this magic phase, this is what's going to begin the process of actively shaping your magical mind and seeing the completion of techniques and abilities you have been developing. So with that being said, we are going to, of course, see Venus and Mercury trine Jupiter retrograde. What's going to happen is Mercury is going to trine Jupiter retrograde, and then it's going to retrograde. Venus is going to catch up to it at 22 degrees. Then Jupiter is going to go direct, and then Mercury is going to catch up to Jupiter direct and trine one more time. So the significance of this trine to Jupiter is you have spent nearly 10 months since June evolving your psychic powers. Yes, you heard me correctly. Your psychic powers. The faculty of your own mind that science tells you only exists in fantasy narratives. And this Pisces 240 degree closing trine Sagittarius signature is going to finally harvest the experience of you breaking through this evolution in the form of how you perceive it. What does it look like to have evolved psychic powers? That's what you're going to be experiencing through this Pisces season. And that's what's going to shape your beliefs around this evolution of how much more powerfully you feel about who you are and your psychic abilities. So as you can see, we do see Venus catching up to Mercury. And as you know, when you don't align with people's beliefs, because they're stupid little bitches and because they're WLBs, weak little bitches, they don't really have any power to confront you. They can't really bring facts. They can't necessarily demonstrate what they believe. So all they can do is call you names. they can call you offensive things because they're frustrated within. And when you're frustrated and when you're a weak, stupid little bitch, now I have to get angry and call you names because you make me feel uncomfortable. And that's the only way that I can get my point across because I wasn't really saying shit in the first place. And that's what you're going to be breaking through entirely through the maintenance of the integrity of these beliefs. Okay. People can mock how you say what you say, but you'll find that they're never really able to demonstrate in any way that what you have done or said was false or you were wrong. Yeah, they can twist the meaning around what you're saying, but that's about it. So while AstroSeek is completely failing on me right now because I'm cooking with this astro transit forecast, it's cool. Oh, now you want to. Oh, it's cool. So not only is that breakthrough going to shape the way you're seeing through your imagination and synchronicities, the strength of your psychic ability, it's going to prepare for you to complete it through Aries, where you'll be directly applying it. And you'll actually be doing things in order to make greater sense of this dynamic. Come the fuck on, man. This is ridiculous, yo. You really gonna do me like that, Raiden? You really gonna do me like that? All right, don't even need it. So yeah, we really do. We really do, fam. So with that being said, thankfully, I already showed you what I wanted to show you. So it's cool. But oh, and congratulations, Forest Fairy. Congratulations to him. So with that being said, um, as Venus is going to catch on to Mercury, this is going to link your brain and your heart. And by the time we finally reach the retrograde period with, of course, Mercury, and we start this process of heavily reevaluating our brains and the process of this, it's going to prepare for Mercury to meet with the sun and to eventually meet with Mars. Okay. And to come back around the nodes. And that's going to be that magical process when our brains reevaluating the previous thoughts we've picked up on. Remember, Mercury going forward ahead of the sun and then retrograding is like sending a scout bird or a crow, hey, go check out what that party is like for me. And then the bird comes back with the tea. The bird can talk. It's in Pisces, so you can talk. Pisces and Sagittarius can talk to animals. So you're Eliza Thornberry, and now the bird is like, hey, I'm not gonna hold you. That party is lame as fuck. Like, yeah, it ain't nobody about shit there. But I did see this other party, and it looks super lit. And now the information your brain processed ahead of you being aware of, it's meeting. Now you have an epiphany. Okay, now you're more equipped to make a decision because you are more aware of the dynamic that has been in play. And because this is happening metaphysically, it's going to be in a warping way that shifts the way you even approach everything that you were already believing in the first place. So as we can see, when the moon is coming out of Gemini next week, Mercury will begin its its retrograde as it goes into Cancer, the moon. And we are going to, of course, it meet Venus first. Mercury at this epiphany point, as the moon is integrating our intellectual, truthful understanding of these beliefs, is going to coincide with the sun activating and unlocking this destiny gate portal. So the end of February is definitely going to be very significant. Then, of course, we're going to step into March, And the next part of this, as we'll see, is not only the full moon transit, but now Mercury retrograde getting ready to meet with the sun. So we're going to have the full moon, right? And as the moon gets ready to square Jupiter retrograde and go into Scorpio and trine and grand water trine these placements, we're going to have Venus enter Neptune and Aries, which is going to be a very interesting transit talk, because that's going to represent a whole new world of partnerships. So Venus conjuncting Saturn Neptune is the first planet to sign that new contract. Remember when last time I was saying last year that this is like 2025, you finished out of your label and they're wanting you to re-sign because they know you're going to go independent? Well, this is where it's finally time to sign that new contract or go independent, right? And by the time the sun goes there, you now have a new independent contract, or you're going independent, right? Like, or you signed a new contract with a label that respects your wishes and you're getting what you want. Cool. It's a new cycle of that. So Venus here is going to be a whole new paradigm, a whole new world of relationships. We're going to talk about that and how this Venus in Pisces is closing out that old cycle. This is going to coincide with this grand water trine of this alignment of individual feelings in Cancer, social trust, and psychoanalytical transformation and depth through Scorpio, and then collective beliefs through Pisces. This is going to align with this epiphany, not only make things click, but prepare for you to apply all of this perspective when we move into Pisces. And this is going to be the sweet spot at the beginning of the March, where you're seeing the most breakthrough and bang for your buck around the implementation and processing of magic, the shifting of how you even believe in magic, and how much more proficient and mastered your relationship with magic, the metaphysical, and summons are. And this is where now I can talk about this, because if I talked about this before, the CIA would be at my door. But now we have enough upgrades to where I'm not afraid of them anymore. So some of you might have noticed that I'm going to go cuckoo. I'm about to go crazy. I'm about to say some crazy shit. Some of you might have noticed the influence of invisible forces. We can quote Ephesians 6:12, for we fight not against flesh and blood, right? Some of you have noticed the influence of angels, spiritual forces of wickedness in high places, principalities, power thrones. Some of you have noticed the influence of unseen forces directly assisting you or directly against you, right? You couldn't put your finger on it. Your brain was not able to process it because you sensed it, but it's like, I don't know, I can't touch it, I can't feel it, but I get the sense that certain correlations to causations exist in a way that's not a post ad hoc fallacy. Or you're totally plunged into Delulu and you and like me, and you already communicating with these motherfuckers, but maybe you don't really see them. This is the period where now you're directly, more than ever, fully experience this. And that's what's going to make this such a game changer transit. That's why now with Neptune and Aries, it's going to really identify a lot of more of these metaphysical themes in ways that prepare to be concrete by 2034 when this goes into Taurus. And remember, Chiron will eventually go into Taurus by July as well. So now moving forward from this grand water trine, that's what's going to now lead Mercury on the path to meet with Mars. Now that Mercury, our brains have processed to meet with our hearts so that the way we're thinking can align with our sense of aesthetic and beauty. And now that it's met with our conscious awareness, now that what we're aware of is going to be moving ahead of what we're processing, now the actions we are destined to take as they align to what we believe will meet with what our brain and scout are getting ready to communicate with it too. Reading between the lines. And guess what? As we complete this Pisces season cycle, Jupiter goes direct, moving us forward with this sense of evolution. Okay. And that's what's going to bring the conclusion of this cycle. And what do you know? As we get ready to set up this new moon, and Mercury has connected with Mars, we close out Pisces season. We activate the new moon at 28 degrees. Look at that. This 28-degree point is what I was talking about when I was referencing the Aquarius signature with Uranus versus the Capricorn at 27 degrees Aquarius. So by the time now we cross the end of Pisces, you are going to be actively experiencing and stepping into these unconventional rewards, while Venus square a newly direct Jupiter is completing the evolution cycle. So the completion of this evolution cycle of you, shout out to Esco, of you actively, you know what I'm saying, like pushing forward this evolution of your psychic abilities is going to be completed by the original actions you're taking, which demonstrate you've evolved. Of course, if you've evolved, what you do will reflect that. All right. Esco is a really great example, I think, of these themes. And correct me if I'm wrong, bro, but and I'm not going to say any names. And I don't mean any disrespect to anyone else associated with this, but to my understanding, and I've seen this happen, Esco in this town has taken a business, right? Has taken a business, made it millions of dollars. Okay. Like Scorpio transformed the visibility that a jewelry business here has in this town, made the owner millions of dollars, and at a certain level got taken advantage of, to where it's not like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you would think that he might be owed something for this. You might think that he might be in a position to come into greater equity. And if anything, it's almost like at a certain point, he was treated like he was expendable. And I don't know if that's his situation now, but the reason why I'm using that as an example is because, just like in his case, you may come to the realization of the value you may have been bringing to an organization, you may have been bringing to a space, to an industry, to a community. And knowing that the success that was gained by it came from you is going to really shift the way with which you apply this focus to what you have going on. And where the resources that you may not have had will come, especially through those skills and what comes through. All right. I've never been more excited for an album, by the way. I never thought I would ever say I'm excited for a Drake album. I'm not gonna lie. But like, that being said, and just the I said theme, but yeah, that should be cool. For Cole drop, I'm excited for the next Kendrick and Drake drop, because I just know what's going to happen after. But that being said, you feel me? This is going to really complete the perspective. And right now, I would say you're about like 98% complete. This Pisces transit is going to drive through that final 2, or that final 12%, that final 10%, 2%. You know what I mean? And it's going to put you in a position to realistically, you know, change the way you believe and think about everything. Almost in the sense that that final piece of the puzzle is going to give you that perspective that completes everything. Total pandemonium and chaos. But that being said, now once the sun and moon go into Aries, we have officially entered the post magic period. Okay. And like I mentioned before, of course, after the new moon, when we have now the next cycle stepping into the new year, guess what goes direct? Mercury. So the post magic period. So we talked about the pre magic period, we talked about the magic period, and now the post magic period. The post magic period is going to represent the end of the retrograde and us reevaluating how we have to change the way we believe, because what we thought was impossible is now possible. So the actions that we weren't going to take because we didn't think it's possible have now opened up. So now we have to change our approach to it. So now we're in the post magic period where now we're taking action on what we thought was impossible. And now we're getting ready to now add new beliefs relative to this. This is now post magic. You've broken through and completed certain techniques, abilities that now you can do at will, like a black flash, let's say. And this is what's going to push forward in this Aries season, the rest of this Mercury cycle, where now Mars is trining a newly direct Jupiter in Cancer. And what you're going to find is that during this post magic period is going to push things forward in brand new, totally brand new ways. So the pre magic period coming out of Aquarius was delaying events collectively for everything to get in place. Then we're in the magic phase right now, which is this washing machine bringing you out of one world into a new world, which is going to change the way you look at everything, which is going to complete skills, abilities, understandings about yourselves, revelations, and wisdom about why you exist on this earth that you've spent your whole life coming in to understand. And then the post magic period is where you're going to apply the results of that. And now everything is moving forward. We're all speed ahead. You're seeing things pick up for you and move. And it's during this magic period that you're going to come into these results. You're going to really see the delay completely vanish throughout your eyes through this Pisces season, and coming through Aries. Even though Saturn in Aries could denote delays, it's really going to sow the seeds that's going to push things forward like never before. Yes, I can sing. So Mercury, we're going to see coming out of station, is going to quickly catch up to Mars. Okay. It's going to trine Jupiter direct, just like Mercury did, Mars did. And as our brains are catching up to process information, that we're taking action ahead of our brains, and Venus is already polishing the natural value of our worth, and the sun is making us aware of our identity and character that we signed a contract with Saturn to maintain integrity of for the next 2.5 years and really 30 years. This is what's going to drive our beliefs forward. That's what's going to lead, of course, into Mars eventually entering Aries in its dignity. And if we're not in war by then, that might be it. And then, of course, as you can see, this is April. It's February right now, guys. By the 10th of April, coming into the completion and the end of this Aries season, Mercury is barely leaving Aries. Look, and this is why I love astrology. You see how as the moon leaves Pisces, Mercury leaves the sign with the moon, and they all enter Aries together. And then we have the super party in Aries. So April 16th, Mercury, the first planet to enter Pisces, is going to be the last planet to leave it. That leaves the North Node very lonely, squaring freaky ass Lilith and wild ass Sagittarius, and that trine to Aries is going to be very spicy. And then we're going to activate this new moon at the end on Chiron of self-healing. Uranus is going to get ready to go into crazy ass Gemini, and whoo, we're entering a new world, baby. So as you can see, that in a nutshell is set to be this process of reevaluating our metaphysical beliefs and your relationship with the unseen. This is going to revisit what I said 2 years ago relative to what if you knew that your higher self, the relationship with your higher self, could be utilized in a very practical way? What if you knew that there was an immaterial metaphysical aspect of yourself that exists beyond this physical realm and third dimension that you daily interact with, in the sense where you are its physical eyes, ears, and senses, almost as if it plays you like an avatar of a video game and you are its avatar? What if you knew you can connect with it and it can real time give you information, maybe in the forms of signs and synchronicity? Sound familiar? You have been doing this your whole life. The ease of efficiency in communication is having you overcome human conditioning that has trained you against this nonlinear way of thinking your entire life. And that's why it will feel like you're delusional. It's almost as if you have to lose your mind to gain your true mind in return. Okay, nobody is ready for Uranus. Nobody is ready. Nobody is ready for Uranus and Gemini. Nobody's ready. In fact, the anniversary of the first nuclear bomb drop, little boy, was during Uranus and Gemini. This to let you know how crazy these times are. Poly bet. Let's make a bet. I'm going to put the poll up. Do you believe that a nuke will be dropped this Uranus and Gemini? I'm giving a huge time range, so it makes it easy. 2026 to 2033. Do you believe that there will be a nuke dropped? You guys let me know. I don't want to believe that's true. I really hope not. I really, really hope not. North Korea is backing Iran. You feel me? And America has they nukes. So, like, I'm just saying. It doesn't even have to look like that, but it's just pointing out possibilities. It's still very mutable right now. So, yeah, that concept of the immaterial metaphysical facet of yourself that is engaging with your real self. Imagine if you literally ask your higher self, hey, I want to meet someone new. Where can I? And your higher self interrupts you in 10 minutes. Go to the bar across the street. I don't even go to that bar. I know. Go to that bar and just chill. And you go to that bar, you chill, and then you see somebody who recognizes you or you recognize. You walk up to them, they walk up to you, boom. It was almost perfect. It's like, have you ever had those experiences where you can't put your mind on it, right? But it's almost as if, like, wow, this feels like I was in the right place at the right time. And it was like destiny. Take that moment, but instead, you're actually aware of each step of the process. Hey, higher self, how can I make $30,000 real quick? Oh, easy. In 5 minutes, go to the corner store. You go to the corner store and your higher self is like, go get a lottery ticket, scratch off. And you go get the scratch off. Your higher self is like, no. Wait until the two people in front of you finish in line and then do it. And because they got the one you have 30,000, right? Or it's like, oh, go to the casino real quick, play this number, right? I'm giving extreme examples, but what if you had a metaphysical facet of yourself that exists beyond the third dimensional cross-dimensional stretches of time, right? The third dimensional cross sections of time. You have a metaphysical aspect of yourself that exists beyond the fourth, fifth, sixth dimension and understands where you are past, present, and future, and can literally help you navigate your 3D with that insight. Some of you may not be aware you already do this. However, a transit like this is going to bring you more in alignment with this than ever. Some of you may not have been realizing signs have been put in your face forever, and you're noticing synchronicities, but you're only noticing a small percentage. And a transit like this is going to break you through into fully aligning. And this is why the society at place, the normative way of thinking, the way your education system is set up, the way this is seen as suicide, there is a concerted effort to have you doubt yourself. The conflation of you exploring your intuition with crazy people in the spiritual community who are clearly crazy, and they put you all in the same box. There's a reason for that, almost as if to associate the exploration of your intuition with, oh, well, if you do that, you're crazy like other. It's because of this control. If an external force can take your over reliance on them as an authority and source, then you'll need them to know what's happening, versus if you realign that source to come from within you, connected through outside. And this is where, for those of you who have sowed the seeds and have spent the past, this is facts, crazy as fuck, the past few years, okay, aligning your beliefs with stuff that other people will tell you crazy about, but you've seen results for, you're going to enjoy this transit. It's going to feel like the fulfillment. It's going to feel like you've been working towards something impossible, and like you were guided by certain synchronicities and signs, but like you knew that there was greater potential, and you finally hit the holy grail. Whereas other people had the opportunity, but they decided to listen to external authorities. Oh, that's not possible. So they never really developed that. And now it could look more like psychosis, because they're not going to understand why they're seeing these strange coincidences and why certain things are happening, and it could drive them crazy. Versus you, it's not your first rodeo. You've done this before. So, woo! That's what I got concerning this. Okay. I hope you guys have enjoyed this. I hope you guys have enjoyed this transit talk. For those of you who would like reading, you can go on my website, thepeacedealer.com, and you could order a transit forecast if you would like deeper insight over the next few months ahead. You can get a natal chart report. If you would like to leave your boy a tip, you can hit up my Cash App or PayPal. You know what I'm saying? But it's all good. I want to pull some tarot for you from the Hermetic deck. And before I do that, be okay with frustrating other people's beliefs. Be okay with people looking at you weird because you say things that rub their beliefs wrong. Tell them to shut the fuck up, and that you don't give a fuck, and that they're welcome, that you challenge their beliefs. Don't let people make you out to be some kind of criminal because you're challenging them to believe and think in a different way. We were done with that. We're done with the 90s. All right. That being said, we do have the Knight of Pentacles, but the main card we have is the Nine of Cups. Wish come true. Wish fulfillment, baby. Wish fulfillment. Make sure you join my school if you want more insight, right, around any of these courses. So I think you're going to see your wish come true, and the Knight of Pentacles adds the consistency to it that makes this stable and not something fleeting that's going to be here today and gone tomorrow. So I think that's beautiful, especially with the Eight of Swords. You're going to really overcome overthinking. A lot of you are going to realize that it's not that you didn't know what to do. You are literally overthinking everything. You literally have a higher self that has all the answers specific to you that may not align with what's conventionally understood, because why would it? We're literal meat suits hallucinating our moment-to-moment reality. So the metaphysical facet of yourself that's outside that, well, it has a lot of insight for you. Insight. You guys stay blessed as always. It is a pleasure. I will reconvene with you guys on Friday so that we can do the Venus transit talk. And until next time, peace.